Jonathan's sharing that I'm a parent to twins.
Yeah.
When one child does something inappropriate, do you think it's appropriate to parent or discuss or discipline in front of the other child, in front of both kids? Or is it beneficial to take the one child aside for a private conversation?
I think that always depends on the situation, what's going on. But I also think that there's great learnings for the other child as long as you are doing things in a way where you are not casting judgment or making them feel like they're wrong or whatever the case may be, where same thing I would do in coaching two people that, or when you, Brendan, are on stage talking to one particular person, you're coaching that one person, but coaching everybody in the room as well. And so when you do that with a kid, again, I don't always pull my one of my kids aside unless it's something that's age appropriate, right? So my 12-year-old right now in puberty, sex talks, things like that, I'm not going to do that around my 8-year-old, right? If he makes an inappropriate sexual comment, I'm not going to correct him there. I'm going to say, hey, let's go in the other room and talk about this, right? But if you've got twins of the same age, I think also in teaching the one kid and modeling behavior for them, the other one's going to learn about it as well. As long as you're not going, hey, you're wrong, your behavior is bad. Remember, behavior is not bad. Behavior can be, hey, you're not doing your best in this moment, right? I always really make sure to talk about things in momentary things, like, hey, do you think you're acting as your best right now, or do you think maybe something's coming up that we need to talk about? Is there something else upsetting you? What's really going on here, right? Getting out of universals and getting into, hey, you're not acting great right now, but I know you can do better. So let's think about how we can do that. Things like that. Hopefully that helps. Jennifer, are you there?
Yeah, hi.
Awesome. What can I help you with today? What's your question today?
You are helping me because my challenge, I have fear of speaking in front of people, so I'm just pretending I'm talking to you. So thank you for just letting me talk. I have social anxieties like in these kind of situations.
Yeah.
Or when I'm speaking in front of people. So is there like a particular, I'm highly confident because of like I attribute it to my father and my brothers.
Mm-hmm.
Like I will do anything. I'll just go do stuff.
Yeah.
But I still get like anxiety inside, like before speaking. So it's mostly, I'm an action taker, but when it comes to like speaking, if you told me we'll go speak to 10,000 people or 5,000 people, then I'd do it, but I'd freak out and I don't have the tools to do it. So this is, I feel, really helpful. Is there a particular part of your app that would be like the most useful to me, who's not afraid to do anything, but I know that don't feel equipped?
I believe that there are tapping meditations in there for public speaking that you can use in those moments. You can also, if you just start to use the app and experience different ones, you'll find ones that really resonate for you. And I'll tell you the most popular one we have in the app, I believe, is our anxiety meditation. And I think it's had something like, I don't know what the number is now, but 400,000 plays of that meditation. On average, it reduces anxiety by something like 42% because we track it in the app. It's kind of cool. You calibrate before and after. So what I would suggest doing is using the app and testing it for yourself and going, you know what, this is the one that makes me feel the most calm and centered. And maybe what you can do as well is use different meditations and visualize yourself going on that stage. Right? So visualize the different components. As I said, when I went to get up on that stage, I knew the different triggers that were going to trigger me. I remember at one point, I thought I was ready and had mentally prepared. And all of a sudden I had this visualization of raising my eyes and seeing the crowd way in the back. And it freaked me out. All of a sudden I was like, boom, level 9 again. Because I hadn't prepared myself for those people in the back and how many people there'd be way back there. So go through and visualize those different components when you go to talk and tap through each one until you can visualize yourself confidently doing it. Now, this doesn't mean that you're going to tap and go out there with zero fear or anxiety. Truthfully, you shouldn't have zero fear or anxiety because a little bit of that fear and adrenaline gets you in the mode and makes you sharp. But you don't want to be, the challenge of being at a level 7 or 8 of fear and anxiety is that your brain is not going to be as on tune and ready to access the information as you want it to be. So you want to lower that fear and anxiety just so you show up as yourself, right? I mean, I always try to remind myself whether I'm doing a live like this or if I'm going to speak on stage, like, hey, just be yourself, right? Anytime you try to be somebody else, people notice. right? And it's just not as congruent. If you just show up as yourself, you will do your best there. And again, just practice through visualization, doing the tapping, preparing yourself visually, going through that, mentally preparing in your head before you go out on stage or to speak in front of other people. You don't have to be at a 0. Just lower that stress or anxiety to a 2 or a 3, to whatever you feel comfortable getting yourself out there to do it. And then as you keep doing it, you're going to start to build that belief in yourself. Like, hey, you know what? I did that. And I would recommend, after you have a successful time, write it down. One of the things that we do not do enough when it comes to building our confidence is to write down the experiences where we did well, that when we're in those tough moments, we can go back to and go, hey, look, this is what I said when this happened last time. Or, you know what, last time when I spoke, this is what this person said to me. Write that down. I recommend this for anybody who's a coach who doubts themselves when they work with people. Whenever you get a great testimonial or a great comment, write that down so that when you're in those tough moments, you're like, oh, I've got no confidence. Let me go look at all these positive comments I've gotten from people, so you can connect to the work that you've done before. Because we're always going to have those fluctuations of up and down with confidence and courage, especially with practice. Maybe you do amazing speaking and then you take off a year and you have to go do it again. You're like, because those beliefs aren't fresh in your mind. So I hope that answered some questions for you and that helped a little bit. Do the mental preparation, visualize yourself, do future pacing of what it might be like, and then use one of the tapping meditations to continue to visualize yourself going through those steps and being successful doing it. And then, of course, right before you go to do it, I recommend take those 10 minutes before you go on stage and speak to use that tapping meditation that's going to center you where you see yourself doing it successfully right before you go on stage.
Thank you, which I have no intention of, but just like even this, maybe the tapping before was helpful to ask my question.
Awesome. No, I'm glad this helped.
Thanks for your time.
Your question.
Karen was asking, when you're in a season of feeling busy and overwhelmed, are there any practices you recommend pairing with tapping to help generate extra energy?
I think, busyness is a really important word because there's a really big difference between busyness and productivity, right? And I think one of the things that's really important is to stop and acknowledge, are you busy for the sake of being busy? And again, I'm saying this, 3 kids, I go to a soccer practice 30 minutes away, 5 days a week with one of my kids, 2 games on the weekends. I get busyness, but there's a lot of other things we do during the day that are busyness, but are they the things that we really need to get done to move forward? And I know there are, if you're doing the right things in a day, you can get more done in 4 hours than you do in 8 hours doing all the busy things. So that's what I would say, is to say, if you're busy, stop, look at the things that are going on and go, well, what could be kind of moved off of here? As you said at the beginning of the month, what things could you punt? If you're not going to get it done next 30 days, can you punt it to the next quarter?
Yeah, I think that's key. And she's asking too, specifically for extra energy. And so removing some things, I would say for me, one thing that helps is I like to pair tapping with meditation. So I separate them. I tend to like to tap in the morning, and I like meditation at like that 2 o'clock hour to let some things go as well. I think it's really important, if you haven't heard my MEDS RX acronym, which is MEDS, meds, like take your meds. And your meds are meditation, exercise, diet, sleep. RX is good relationships, and X is supplementation, because sometimes you just need that. If you're struggling with a lot of energy, I always go diet, sleep, exercise, and make sure you see a nutritionist or dietitian or healthcare provider to understand. I mean, if you're low in B's or iron, or something is out of whack with your blood panels, then what you find out is, oh, I feel like I'm doing lots of things right, but if you're a deficit in the minerals or nutrients or hormones that your body needs to function well and at high energy, I mean, you can have all the planners, do all the physical things, all the meditations and the tappings, but if you're biologically in lack because of those things, it's hard to turn it up. You can use it and it's important, but I also think all of you, if you're struggling with energy, make sure you go download the Tapping Solution app, because a lot of that also comes from the way that you're carrying stress. And a lot of it has to do with maybe food, diet, nutrition. Even, I mean, they've got everything in Tapping Solution app, from like weight loss tapping to how to deal with the stress to how to find more motivation. And I think all those little things can boost you. So I think you can use tapping in a specific way to unlock more energy, but you got to get the base level right. Meditation, exercise, diet, sleep, good relationships, and the supplements your body needs to be on its A game.
Yeah, and one of the things I'll add to that, is being aware of what things matter or most to you. I can tell you that out of those things, I know how I prioritize things. And the first thing I always prioritize is my sleep.
Yes.
Number one, right? Because
Me too,
I know
man.
that if I don't sleep, then I'm not going to want to exercise. I know that I crave carbs and other stuff if I haven't slept. So I always say, number one for immune system. I'll tell you, when I hurt my wrist, you can see I'm better. I know, Brandon, you saw a picture of me a few weeks back in a sling.
I know. I was like, what happened to you, dude?
I know. But so when I got hurt, I was in so much pain that I was sleeping about an hour at a time and then waking up, and no surprise, I caught the cold that my kids had and was, not only hurt, but sick for several days.
Ugh.
Finally had a day where I got 4 hours in a row, boom, kicked it like that. Next day was 8 hours and it was able to fight it off. So I go sleep, number one. Number two for me is exercise, because I know that when I exercise, number one, my energy is so much higher. I really try and do at least something in the morning, 15, 20 minutes in the morning. And I know I make better food decisions when I exercise. Now, this is where I say, know how you are wired, because I struggle with eating well when I'm not exercising. I don't try to worry about the food part as much as the exercise, because when I exercise, my food decisions are just so much better. And so I know the order of how I prioritize things. I go sleep, number one, then I worry about my exercise, and then I know the food's gonna fall into place. And then of course I do, regular supplementation as well. Especially, I will tell you that ever since COVID hit, my supplementation has been on, right? Because it's more important than ever to make sure that our immune systems are strong.
Great questions from the community here for you, brother. Kate's asking, when you're gaining momentum for the end of the year, but you see your spouse struggling, how do you help them so you both meet your year-end goals?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I mean, for those of you who saw my wife in here a few months back, one of the things I've talked about with my relationship, I'm so grateful for my wife, because she had a very different childhood to what I have. I was consider myself to be super lucky with the childhood that I had, with the parents that I had, of really feeling safe and loved in that environment. But my wife grew up in an environment of a lot of trauma. And so her challenges, I mean, I can sometimes just reframe something and ask myself a better question and do some tapping, give myself a better meaning. Sometimes those things are a little bit more difficult for her. And so I think that in the same way that we talked about self-acceptance for us, I think the first thing we have to do for our spouse is to accept them as they are with what's going on, and to acknowledge them for those things. I mean, so often we, especially us men, we like to go in and fix things, right? With our wives. And so often what we really need to do is to listen to what's going on for them, and starting off from that place, and to just have honest and open communication about where we are, about what we're each feeling, and then about how we can support each other. And to know that you have to come into the relationship with support, with love, and give whatever advice you can, but to not let any of that stop you from your personal growth forward as well.
Let me ask you a couple questions here, some speed round from the community that I just thought was really great. And I know you talked about your night routine and how people struggle with that. What are some fundamental must-haves you feel like for that evening wind down or evening routine?
I mean, for me, for starters, it is actually setting timelines on the things, on the way you shut yourself down or slow yourself down from the day. And I've got the same structure for my kids, and a lot of my stuff revolves around my kids. So I know that for my kids now, it's 8 o'clock, all devices are off, and that includes adults. All of us, devices are off at 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock, it's that getting ready for bed, it's that spending time together, it's that calming our body down so that we can get ready for bed. Right. And just being present with each other and talking about the day and all that kind of stuff. Because family for me is everything. And that's, for me, the happiest part of my day is, I can have a great day, but if at the end of the day, I get to the end of the day and my kids had something tough going on, I'm like, oh, okay, what can I do to help them and support them? So it is that wind down process of shutting off from devices. And then just like I do in the morning process, it's being present with myself. And I notice the difference. I'm not perfect about doing my planner all the time. Sometimes I'll miss a morning or miss an evening. And when I don't, I'm basically just not, just like I said in the example during this, I'm not being that pilot. I'm being that pilot who just runs on the plane and starts flying without going through my checklist process to make sure that I'm actually going where I want to go and doing what I want to do. And so I make sure to be present with myself emotionally and go, well, what am I actually feeling from today? What do I need to release? Whether it's anger or frustration, not really, I don't really get angry anymore. I used to be angry as a teenager a good amount, but anger is not an emotion that I really dive into. Frustration definitely would be. But I recognize what emotions I have, and I tap to release them, right? I acknowledge them and I release them so that I can actually get myself to bed. And I always just go back to acknowledging that I'm doing my best, right? That we're all doing our best. That, no matter how much I, want to beat myself up or think, oh, I could have done better, or I should be further along. I mean, that's a common theme for everybody is, oh, I should be further along in my life or my business or further along with my health. And I just acknowledge and go, hey, I'm doing my best. And the more I beat myself up about that, the more I rob my joy of being present with life. Ooh. At the end of the day, what happens to me, what matters to me is my health. Like, man, when I can get a good run in or play soccer, that is the most alive I feel in any given day. And then just being present with people. And I have to always remind myself being present with people because I'm always around people. The question is, am I actually present with them in a way where I can enjoy those interactions? And so I just remind myself of those things. I do gratitude every evening. I write down 3 things that I'm grateful for in the evening. I think that's a really important process. I notice in my planner, literally the second I get to that part and I start tapping into gratitude, my whole body just goes, and it just calms me down. And I go, oh yeah, there's always so much to be grateful for every single day. And so I go through that process. So those are just some of the things I do in the evening.
This can be your day for personal growth. This can be that day you committed to and you remember and you go, that was the day I got myself a community. I got better coaches. I committed to making my life the absolute best that I could. This is that day. Make today your growth day. Click the button on this page and sign up right now.